Game Informer just came out with a new interview with Cameron Monaghan about Jedi Survivor and Cal Kestis, and I want to watch it with you guys. Finally having time to sit down and watch it, so let's go over it.
Star Wars Galaxy at this time is at an extremely dark point. And the situation for a Jedi has never been worse than what it is for Cal. So he's looking for any way to affect change, to
desperation,
survive, to
which
protect
we're
the things
kind
that he cares
of got
about.
that vibe
And
that
that's
Cal's going to be a lot more
increasingly
desperate.
difficult. And I think Cal is at this point where he is even questioning how it is that he's supposed to proceed and what his next move should be. And so when an opportunity seemingly presents itself for him, he's going to throw himself at it full force. And that's kind of what launches us into our story.
So this is kind of what my headcanon has been since we saw the recent trailer, is that the game is going to start out with Cal figuring out that there's this Jedi stuck in Bacta that could help them fight the Empire, and he's going to desperately want to go save that Jedi. But there's going to be, like, disagreements from whether it's the Mantis crew or somebody else he's working with, and his desperation is going to lead him to kind of go on his own and do against the wishes of the other people he's working with, and it's going to end up bad because the Jedi in the Bacta is not what he seems. So I'll be interested to see.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the story of the first game
was
what happens when you lose your family and how can you find a new one for yourself.
Found family, the Mantis crew.
With this story, we say, okay, you have a family, but when the circumstances around you change, what happens when you all have different opinions on how to deal with those circumstances?
So one, this is gonna rip our hearts out is kind of how it's sounding, is that there's gonna be the fallout of the Mantis crew, which we know from the description of the game on some websites that a lot of this game is going to be about getting the Mantis crew back together, which then back to what I said earlier is that if the game starts with Cal being like, I need to go get this Jedi, and the Mantis crew being like, no, that's not a good idea, and Cal being like, well, screw you, I'm going to go do it anyway because I know it's going to help us, and then it ends up causing more issues, that's going to fracture the Mantis crew even more, because the Mantis crew is going to be like, well, we freaking told you. So I'm really interested. It's going to rip our souls apart as Mantis crew lovers, but I'm really interested to see where that takes it. Let's see if he says anything more about this.
What happens when you put strain on a family and on your relationships? What does that look like for these characters and their interactions?
Oh, that's going to hurt my heart.
Over the course of our story, we find new characters, new interactions.
New characters. I'm really excited about the new characters.
Open up, Cal's relationships as well.
See, bad Jedi.
There's a bunch of new characters that I really like what they do to shift the kind of the dynamic in the story. And in our first story, we had someone who was kind of a boy becoming a man.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a
coming of age story.
What I guess I can say. That's a part of adulthood is you have to live with the decisions that you make. Back
to the headcanon of that's what's going to start off the whole story is this huge mistake that Cal's going to make out of desperation.
It's challenging. And
I'm sticking with it.
You can be affected by them, and they can haunt you. We have a really interesting story with Cal where he's faced with challenges that are difficult, and there's not necessarily any right answers. And it's something that I always really wanted to explore with the character. It was a conversation that we had immediately after the first game was, how do we put this character in situations that are challenging? And what are the ones that are really going to push him to the point where he might break? How do we get him to that point, and what do we do from there?
Get him to the breaking point.
What is the story?
I think fighting Darth Vader was kind of a breaking point, but
we can still find adventure, but also find something that is deeper and darker and more intricate and complex. Ooh. So, yeah, I think that we have a bunch of really big questions that we're asking with this one.
I'm excited.
It's funny because it's like it's this dual-sided thing, right? You have an established lore, character, canon, all this stuff.
What's he talking about?
And
now?
you're so excited about it and you love it. But also,
We
at
do.
the end
We
of the day,
love it. We're
this
excited about
needs
it.
to exist and be satisfying and interesting regardless of this.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And you want to be able to have them interact with each other.
He's talking about
and,
understanding the lore of the
you
game.
know, have an interplay.
Is kind of what it sounds like.
But you also, it's always been important with me with our stories that the drama, the stakes, the characters should be clear regardless of whether or not you have any understanding.
I like that. And I've been talking to people about
and I
this.
want anybody who's never watched a Star Wars movie, read a Star Wars story, anything like that,
Jedi Fallen
to be
Order
able
can
to
stand on
jump
its
into
own
this
as
and
just
play
its
it
own
and still be
entity.
able to understand it. And then
Jedi Survivor,
if you do
obviously,
have,
as well.
you know, a more experience understanding, then you're only going to have a deepened appreciation of a lot of what's going on here.
All right.
And Lucasfilm were really generous in always adding input, explaining, and helping us find our footing and where the story should be and where it should live. But yeah, it's always been really really important to me to make sure that our story is satisfying on its own, and you know, stands on its own 2 feet. And that being the
It's
priority.
almost over. Let's finish it. Okay, so that actually, I'm really intrigued at what the question was that was asked for that answer, because this has been something I actually have been talking to a lot of people about, because there's been a lot of concern around Jedi Battle Scars, the book that's coming out in between Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, and people being like really concerned that, oh, they're gonna make us read this book, you're not gonna be able to understand Jedi Survivor if you don't read this book. And I really like that answer because it kind of gives the same answer I've been trying to give people for forever, and I've talked to a lot of other people about, since I'm a big Jedi Fallen Order fan. And when I stream and stuff, I interact with people that aren't familiar with Star Wars, and how I do appreciate that Jedi Fallen Order can kind of be its own standalone thing. It doesn't really rely on Easter eggs and things like that. Obviously, there are some which are really cool, but it doesn't rely on that to continue the story. And so I think it's really interesting that he answered that question, that Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor are really kind of their standalone thing that you can enjoy without needing to know other Star Wars lore. And included the new book, it will probably be a benefit, like he said. It's a benefit to understand Star Wars lore and understand probably what happens in the Jedi Battle Scars book, but it's not a requirement. And I really like that, because I think it opens up the world of Star Wars and enjoying these amazing games without having to be like a lore master. But that was a really interesting interview. Again, just re-enhancing kind of the things that we've heard before, just the Cal Kestis is getting a lot more desperate. Cal Kestis is going to start doing things that maybe other members of the Mantis crew or other members of the Rebellion or whoever they're working with in this game are not very happy about. And that's going to start us into the problems of the game. And so I'm really interested to see how true my headcanon may be, and also really sad but ready for our hearts to be broken with the Mantis crew kind of getting broken up. But I'll be very interested to see. Thank you guys for watching with me. I'll be making more videos as more information comes out. But thank you for watching with me. Have an amazing rest of your day. May the Force be with you. Goodbye!